It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich Bitch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Welcome back to the More Pod. This is part 2 of my conversation with intuitive business coach and digital nomad, Helen Simkins. She is taking us on a journey as she shares 5 lessons from 5 countries around the world. If you missed part 1, I would love for you to start there first and then come on right back because it is so good. I live for these stories and these lessons. So let's just hop right back into the conversation with part 2.
Something that I realized that I did not know before is, so I am someone who has been in an open relationship before. When I was 26, I was seeing a guy who was also seeing another person. So that was an experience. I probably wouldn't do it again, but a really great experience because it teaches you, I don't need to be with this person. I want to be with you. I choose to be with you. Okay. But what I started doing in new relationship was kind of telling them about this to show them that I'm a cool girl. You can basically walk all over me if you want to. And the other side of this coin is in entering any new relationship, in the back of my mind, I said to myself, it's only a matter of time until they leave you for somebody else. It's only a matter of time. And a lot of men that I've dated in Massachusetts, I somehow, and I understand it, appear and look exotic to them, okay? I'm not. I'm a white mutt, English, Irish, Polish, and Scottish. I just got curly hair, and when I'm tan, I look like Shakira, which, is a little bit more exotic looking, right? So a lot of the relationships I had, they basically found out I'm not exotic. Like, I'm not going to throw a frying pan at your head. I'm not a very spicy. We're not going to get in these heated debates. And a lot of these guys in my past would leave me for a more spicier, sexier brunette, basically. A more exotic, an actual exotic woman. So when I would meet anybody, I would tell myself, all you got to do is get this person to like you. So in trying to get this person to like them, I would say, oh yeah, I'm like, really sexually experienced and I've had these like open relationships and I'm a cool girl and la 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 la. But in reality, I'm screaming on the inside in fear that they're going to abandon me, leave me, never love me back, never really care about me, have zero communication. I mean, like, the list could go on and on and on and on and on. And what's really funny about being Mexico as a very white person with freckles is we are actually exotic there.
Right.
I don't think I've ever received so many compliments on having freckles in my life. And I'm like, damn,
Right.
you gotta come up to the Northeast, pal, because you're gonna have like this. It's like
So many freckles.
so many freckles. So that was a really weird and interesting experience. But in this journey of doing ayahuasca for the first time, which by the way is a horrible experience, I want all the listeners to know that everyone will always have their own individual experience with it. And you are going in there to heal something specific. Okay. So just know that. And it's not going to be fun, but it's just how it is. And so in that experience, I saw myself as a little girl, like Alice in Wonderland, crouched up with her, holding her knees up close with her hair pouring over her in like a little dress with this big golden cage. And almost like you can picture like the scary woods of Snow White with all these like demons and goblins and coming up with these scary faces. And those goblins were my ego. It was all fear. And that I actually hold the key to open that cage and walk out and not be in fear of what a relationship can be, and not insert my own fear automatically from the get-go, which I had no idea I was doing, right? Because it was with one of those Alejandros, sounds so funny to say, that I remember like having our second date and being like, oh, all right, like we get along, but like there's not a real connection there, but that was cool and it was fun and like probably don't need to really see him again. I said all of this out loud to myself, like very matter of fact, cool, whatever. The next day, spiraling out of control. He hasn't texted me. Am I going to see him again? Like all of a sudden, it just mattered so much if this guy was going to like me. And I will say too, it's all right. I'm not going to tune my mother into this episode. A lot of this also came to when me and my ex broke up and other exes, her saying, well, what did you do? Why did it fail? What did you do wrong? And in the ayahuasca journey, I kept saying to myself, why isn't this working? Why aren't you getting this like beautiful, euphoric, like visualization of this and that and the other? What did you do wrong in preparation? So it's almost like this, what did you do wrong for this relationship to fail? And your main job is to get this guy to like you. Just like in a job, your main job is to make sure you're doing your work, your boss likes you, you get the great review, you're on step to getting like the next promotion, all this bullshit. Meanwhile, you're in an office where the guys are just presenting your work. They're opening up your files and changing it. They're taking credit for it. They're making at least $10,000 more than you salary-wise. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that happens. And then, you can even put, I'm not going to enter my father into the conversation, but I'm sure all the women listening can understand the multitude of healing that really needs and will, if you choose this nomadic journey, will happen between the relationship that you have with your father, with your brother, if you have a brother, with any male that you've worked alongside in our society, in corporate, any boss who is a male, any romantic relationship that you've had with a male, it's all going to come to the surface. And it has to, for you to, like you said before, evolve. For your soul to evolve, you have to really face your ego. And that's what ego is. Ego is not good or bad. It is fear. And we need a little bit of fear, right? Or else I always think of Inside Out, that movie where like, there's this guy and he's made up of fear and he's the one that tells you, hey, don't trip over that, cord. You need that, right? But there's a point where it starts to really take over your life.
Yes. That line between protection and suppressing, the experiences you're supposed to have. What an incredible experience. And thank you for sharing that. It sounds like a beautiful storm really like came together for you in that location that allowed you to find not only the healing, but the realizations first,
Exactly.
needing to have the understanding and the lesson to eventually, to metabolize that. And I also just appreciate hearing the relationship story because I think one of the things people think about is like, well, how am I ever going to like meet anyone while I'm traveling or like,
you know what? I love when people say that because I would get this backlash from friends from home, their mothers, and saying, oh, sweetie, you're going to go travel another year. You're already 30 or you're already 30, whatever. And I go, I know that you think that the dating pool is only this small proximity of this zip code, but honey, there's a whole world of men out there that haven't met me yet. I mean, I'm doing a disservice, right? So I want you to reframe that. There are plenty of fish in the sea. And there's a lot of them. And I think one of the best things too is you can date an Italian in Cape Town. You can make love with a Serbian in Rio. You can, you know what I mean? Like you'll actually be fascinated with the walks of life of people that you will find and meet. And another thing I'll say for a lesson in year 3 is standing up for yourself and your beliefs, because with this relationship healing and the triggering that comes and how I kind of related romantic relationship partners with people in the workforce and maybe also authority figures like your, father or something like this. a lot of times what that is they have doubts in whatever you're doing, right? Like, because you're questioning what their beliefs and they react. And that was one of the biggest true signs of this specific soulmate, was all of a sudden he's like, well, yeah, but like, it's just all make believe, right? And then I was like, oh, this guy actually doesn't stand for anything that I stand for. He doesn't believe in anything that I do. He doesn't think I'm going to amount to be anything. And it just actually makes you go the other direction. And you're like, okay, well, you just moved yourself onto the list of people I'm going to prove wrong.
Right. You're like, I don't know which list you prefer, but you're moving lists.
And that will happen a lot. Just in general, as traveling, especially if you choose to start a business, build a brand, be an entrepreneur, people are going to question you all the time because it is so scary to them. It is so out of their realm. And it will make you all of a sudden doubt your own choices. And then you have to say, oh, yeah, never mind. No, duh. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you really have to remind yourself,
Yeah.
That's like a daily affirmation. It's crazy how easily, when you don't have that callus built up, how easily, just a simple question or, eyebrow raise from someone you maybe care about a lot can just like stop you in your tracks and you're like, oh shit, what am I doing?
And this was about astrology, and I love this stuff, right? Like, I love the unknown. I love the unknown and making it known. Astrology, human design, the gene keys, like soul expansion, karmic debt, whatever. He's like, I mean, I believe it because you believe it. But going back to what you said, and what we talked about earlier, this is why it's really important to create and foster beautiful connections for people that can support you in these moments of doubt, especially entrepreneurs. Like, I have my handful of nomad business besties where someone could doubt me in some way, and I can sleep on that and reflect on that, but then also turn to someone who I know supports me and is in my corner, and them have my back. And then I'm reminded and remembered of my path, and that these small voices don't matter, and you have to continually squash them, because that's going to make your ego say, oh, you're talking to me? Hold on, I can get back into the driver's seat. And you go, no.
Nope. Backseat driver only.
Backseat driver only.
Yeah. That's so, wow. Where did you I'm sure by that time you were ready to leave Mexico. You had had some time, you had some moments, you had some big lessons. Like, where were you at? And then how did that inform what you did next in year 4?
Well, at that time, I definitely was ready to leave, because I remember walking out of the apartment and it just being a complete sweatbox. All of a sudden, you're in Mexico and it will turn like night and day. It's time to get out of Dodge. It's time to go. So from there, I'm pretty positive I went to Lisbon, and I think that's when you and I connected.
Woo!
Yay! I was in Lisbon for 4 months, overstayed my Schengen. I don't love it there. Sorry, everybody that absolutely loves it, but it's slippery. I don't know. The tiles are slippery. No, I think if once you've been to a lot of European countries, they kind of are all very similar, right? So if you want to live in Europe, choose the one that you truly desire to live in the most. For me, maybe that's more towards Italy, because there's just more landscape, mountains, just more diverseness, lots to see. But yes, Lisbon is a digital nomad hotspot for absolute positively sure. I mean, the digital nomad group there alone has 15,000 members in it.
Wow.
And you would have to, every Tuesday at whatever o'clock it was, let's say 4 o'clock, would go on and have to RSVP to the one event that was going on, because it would just get capped. There's that many people there.
Wow.
And the thing I think that's really hard, and when it comes to, I actually had to move around a lot in Portugal, because I wasn't thinking about how many tourists were actually going to be there at the same time. Because again, after the pandemic, so you're battling the tourists, also people coming back to school who live there, and nomads. And I'm not that much of a city person. And that's a big thing you'll figure out as a traveler is what environment do I actually like? Because I was told I'm supposed to really thrive in a city because if I work in a city, I'm going to make lots of money and I'm going to have the fancy job and the fancy title. But if you removed that information, where would you actually really want to live? And I'd rather be in nature. I always end up somehow finding myself on a farm. So in Portugal, all of a sudden, I'm in Ericeira living on a pony farm. I'm like, okay.
That is so fitting for you.
It is. It is. It is so fitting for me. It is. So just everybody remember that. You get to choose where you get to live. If you get to work online, and there's beautiful co-living spaces around the world in some of the most remote areas. And that's where I would say I'd get more into what was going on in year 4. So Lisbon was like a lot of moving around and this and that. Nothing completely that memorable besides business was really good then. I was very confident in my abilities at that point because I was launching a group coaching program. And I don't know, I was just on fire. I was creating curriculum, recording the modules, doing 2 group calls. This is also, again, when you're like, okay, traveling is just my lifestyle. I actually chose to live in Lisbon because I was doing a group coaching program. And so I could cater to those who were living in California and Mexico and America, South America, and then do the other calls with the people who are in Bali and Thailand and New Zealand.
Putting yourself in the middle of the time zones, really.
I had to, yeah. And so when you do have this much freedom and choice, you're really going to start to look at the globe as where do I need to be to support my business, to support my purpose, my destiny, but we do need to create some kind of income here. And where will I be most happiest doing that? So that was kind of my life there, was a lot of moving around because it was so busy and crowded. I think I had 4 to 5 to 6 different apartments. So eventually I wanted something a little bit quieter. And that's when I chose to go to Colombia for that winter.
Okay.
And so this is going to kind of close the circle with the last karmic lesson of that soulmate who I originally met in Thailand when we went back there, which is where I first was experiencing being desired and having this true bliss of lust and love and honeymoon moments in Koh Tao, to then this person showing up randomly in Playa del Carmen and going through this whole relationship healing journey and then kind of coming to terms with that. So then somehow we had this wild and crazy idea of meeting each other in Colombia and traveling together. And Colombia was when I really realized that how my strength and how powerful I am as a solo female traveler, because me and this guy planned to meet each other in Colombia. And he never came.
I don't like this guy.
He came, technically, but he went to Cartagena instead of Medellin, where I was. And I said, we promised you'll at least be there for my birthday. And here I am, like, so emotionally, like, invested in this person. Like, there's still this kind of, we all do it, right? We romanticize. There's this piece of hope. He'll get over his bullshit, right? No.
Yeah.
No. But all of a sudden, and this is one of the karmic lessons that our generation, the Scorpio and Pluto generation, comes to learn, the lesson of loss, abandonment, and betrayal. So this is where, and how I had said before, I'm just waiting for somebody to leave me. I'm waiting for them to abandon me. And I know this was actually something like that happened in previous lives, and that's why I had to, cure it here.
Yeah.
But I was abandoned in Colombia in that way. This
Literally.
person repeatedly telling me, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. And then all of a sudden I look back at 4 months and I go, everybody who told me that I was absolutely crazy to travel to the most dangerous and unsafe country in South America and to do it alone. Oh my God, are you nuts? And I did it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I didn't realize until that happened. And so once that happened, I said, oh my fucking God, you can do whatever you want. You can go to any country and you don't need anyone else's permission to go.
Mm, I love that. And can we talk about that for a second? Because there are obviously some countries in the world that have reputations for being very unsafe, whether they're true or not.
Mm-hmm.
And, I find that even when I mention Mexico, people look at me
Oh
like
my
I'm
God, I know.
crazy. And it's like, do you realize Mexico City is the biggest city in all of North America? Like there's so many layers to it. But going to Colombia alone, solo traveler, blondie with curly hair and
Yeah.
freckles, and having an experience that was safe and supportive. What can we all learn from being mindful to look out for ourselves when we are solo traveling, but also not being fearful of whether they're true or semi true or just completely made up reputations about what we can expect about being in a certain country?
Right now, our opinion on a country is based on its reputation, and that reputation was built from how Hollywood depicted it and previous news,
Mm.
okay? History. The thing is, no matter where you go, you will have unsafe moments. And when I've gotten my phone stolen, I was in Miami. It wasn't in Colombia. It wasn't in Mexico. I did get my laptop water damaged there, but that was my own fault. And the thing is this too, especially for women, I go, well, you've lived this long being in a woman's body, have you not? You know what to do. You have the toolkit. You know what it's like to be alone and be a woman in this world and society. Because even when I was in Boston, bartending or waitressing until 1 a.m, 4 a.m, and having to walk home alone, I had the speed dial ready on my phone. I have on Find My Friends, my friends have my location. It's actually very simple. It's not leaving your purse on a table and having it cross-bodied and in front of, and so you can see it. It's simple things. It's simple things like this. There is definitely more protocol that with Colombia specifically. I think the hardest thing with Colombia is because it's so close to the equator that it does get dark early,
Mm.
like 6, which means you have to really decide if you want to go out to dinner or not. Because if you go out to dinner, when you come out of dinner, it will be dark out. So then what are your next steps? Where do you live? Do you want to walk home? Is that the best choice for you? Do you get an Uber? But you're following those same rules and protocol everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, how Central and South America are known as the most dangerous, let's say. I guess, we can say all of them because year 5, I'll talk about Cape Town. That's another one. Oh my God, you're crazy. Also, Jordan, you're crazy. And was almost stolen in a metro in Rome when I was 16. I was
Oh.
almost drugged in Jordan. I was almost. It's always like that. I also would babysit my sister's kids, and I remember walking home. Oh, sorry, it was a neighbor of hers, and I walked home. And this was just in Boston, in Massachusetts, in Charlestown, where people live, the rich people live there, right? And a guy pulled up to me thinking I was a hooker, and I was 17. And that's in my own home. At the end of the day, it's all the same.
Mm.
There's good people and bad people everywhere. And there's always going to be stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to have your own solo safety toolkit. Okay.
Yeah.
And some examples, I can give you some tips right now. When I'm a solo traveler and I'm staying at a hostel, I tell the person who's working the desk, I give her a curfew. I say, I'm going to be home by midnight, 11:30, 10, whatever that is. If I'm not home, I want you to text me. And if not, I'll give them the second thing to do. I want to make sure people know where I am and where I'm going. And the other great thing about Find Friends, and this is something that I practiced in Boston. In Boston, I was still living by myself and a solo single female, right? With Find Friends, you can put notifications on each other. So because I was, let's say, 6 hours ahead, I would contact my girlfriend at home who's a nurse working nights or whatever. It didn't really matter. And I would say, can you put a notification on my location so you know when I get home and if it's in this window of time, you know? But I used to do the same thing when I would go to the One Republic concert by myself because no one else wanted to go.
Sure.
Will you put a notification on that I will be home by this time? Because if not, that means something scary happened to me, you know? And so go about it the same way that you would. Just have your stuff visibly in front of you. Be smart. Make sure people know where you're going. And if you originally get a thought about a country like, I'm really worried about my safety there, ask yourself, where did that initial thought come from? Did somebody tell you it was unsafe? Is it a belief that came through media? Is there research that I can do, and can I amplify my toolkit more? So something like that would be having a backup phone, right? So places where your things could be prone to be getting stolen, don't flash around your Apple Watch and your newest Apple phone and your AirPods and all it. Like, don't walk like a walking Apple store. You're like, hey, anybody want to rob me today? Because I'm already wearing $5,000 worth of electronics.
Yeah, don't look so robbable. What are you doing? Come on.
Yeah, leave that stuff at home. When I see articles in some of the Facebook communities and they're like, my suitcase got stolen and my grandma's jewelry was in there. I'm like, why on earth are you traveling with your grandma's jewelry, girl? Like, where are you going that you need to have your grandma's diamond ring with you?
Yes. And then we go back to like packing 101, right? Like,
yeah, like it's street smarts. It's having street smarts. So in the instance of Colombia, what I would do is I would have my phone and I would have my older iPhone, and one of them would have my real phone number, eSIM, Google Fi, whatever. We can talk. That's a whole other conversation about, having Wi-Fi and the best phone plans. But take the backup phone with you. So if someone does come up to you and says, give me your phone, you go, here you go. I got my other phone at home. Not a big deal. So think about, what are the biggest, scariest things for you, and how can you build safety and peace around that?
So it sounds like really wherever you are in the world, just being smart and making someone aware that you're going out and that you are, coming back later, setting those curfews, like you said, not being a walking billboard to be robbed, just being really thoughtful. And it's not so much where you are, it's just like how you navigate through your days. When you're in Colombia,
I was going to say, like, one rule of thumb too, because we can also get lost with lust from men. Okay. And if anybody ever asks you, if they say, do you trust me? That is your signal to not. That's it. Because nobody untrustworthy would actually ask you that.
Oh, that's a good one.
This happened to me in Jordan. And the thing is I kind of don't want to tell the story in a way, because Jordan is beautiful and they deserve to have tourism. But there's one bad seed, and he would manipulate women with this kind of love and lust romance. And at first, my friend and I who were there, we did have this beautiful, like, insane travel experience, the definite one that you throw in the mason jar and you keep forever. And because we had that amazing experience the night before, we were like, ooh, maybe we'll get another one with this person, okay? Long story short, though, I was going to go back to women in our sixth sense, your intuition. Traveling is about strengthening your intuition time and time again and just going on that hunch immediately, right? And having that, like, ooh, there's something with this person. There's a little energy about this or whatnot. And by the way, when I was in Jordan and this host was amazing, he said to us, every person that you meet, take a selfie with them and send them to me, and I will tell you if they are safe or not.
Wow.
Because they are all cousins there.
Wow.
He will tell you, like, and that actually did happen. So we sent a selfie and he's like, give me your location. I'm coming to get you. This guy in particular had just recently gotten out of jail.
Wow.
And he is telling us we're going to have this beautiful, magical time. He's going to make us dinner. We're going to sit and watch like the petrolights and get a bottle of wine. Okay. And so me, who is bartended like a millennia, I see him go up to, he's like, I'm going to go buy the alcohol. He doesn't go to a quote, liquor store or anything like this. He goes up to like a hole in the wall hut where friends are. And I see him turn his back and I see the other guy open the bottle of wine and come in. And that's when I immediately knew that we were in danger. I said, this person just opened this bottle of wine ahead of time to drug it, right? Mm-hmm. And he also said repeatedly before this, come on, you trust me, don't you? So there's a lot, safety is a big umbrella. And there's safety on, okay, is it vandalism? Am I going to get my stuff stolen? Or does it go deeper than that, right? Like I'm actually in harm's way. Like someone is about to drug me. And it's having this awareness. But I will tell you as a woman, you already know because you've been living this long as a woman in your body. You know it.
Yeah.
Everything in life so far has prepared you for it. And so your intuition will get stronger and you will know how to navigate it even more so. And also, the universe will only give you what you can handle. If I was 15, I wouldn't have been able to handle that.
Right.
But when I was 15, it was a different kind of scare. But in any case, I never want any woman or anyone to be afraid of traveling as to what kind of shit could go down, because that shit goes down in our country every day. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter where you are. There's always going to be untrustworthy, malicious, bad people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like to think that people are mostly good. I like to start there. And then, of course, trust the intuition, identify, like you said, the bad seeds as you may approach them. But is there anything else?
Oh, year 4?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
I'm like, I asked you about safety and
No, it's fine.
Because those countries are just so notorious. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I really wanted to go there. But, having that experience of realizing that you did that on your own and your whole life experience of living in your body prepared you to have a good and safe experience in Colombia.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share about that before we go on to year 5?
Yeah. So with that in Colombia, and that's where I actually did stay on a farm for like 2 or 3 months.
Gorgeous.
Riverside eco living, everybody go. It is the most magical, amazing place. And it's so safe. And that is the thing, is the people in Colombia are so nice. I made so many amazing connections with local people there, and they will give the shirt off their back to you. So don't dismiss what one blog article says, what one Hollywood movie says, and make that judgment for that entire country and all of the people that live there. Because the Americans listening now, they know what that's like with what's happening in our country.
Yeah.
And you're going to really face it when you leave the country and people start to judge you for being American and the choices that this country has made.
Yeah.
And maybe that's karma for us. you know?
Yeah.
So in any case, it was it wasn't the most beautiful experience having this it was the last straw. And it was like the closing of some Venus return or whatever. But I really realized how capable I am and the strength that I have to do absolutely anything and on my own, and that I don't need a man to do anything. Because I know before I would say, well, I don't want to go back to Italy unless I'm with my romantic partner and we're having this whole romance. Psh, been back to Italy 3 times since then, and I can always go back.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes I feel like, and it's the helpless romantic in us. We feel like we can't do something unless someone else is with us, but you don't need them. And it's going to make you so, so strong. And when that happened, I said, okay, I opened up the map and I go, where do you want to go next? You can go anywhere. You don't have to consider anybody else's feelings, anyone else's opinions, anyone else's like what country they've been to and they may not want to go back again. And so actually when that happened, and I always stop by home. It's the natural course, right? You're in South America, you come home, you say hi to mom and dad and your friends, and then you zip on over to Europe. But it was actually after that I took a pause in my business. And I mean that in not taking any new clients, fulfilling the, responsibilities that I had, and really say, what do you want to do? Like, really, who do you want to become? And I stopped. And that's when I was like, I'm going to go to Ireland. So I went to Ireland for a month because I could, because I wanted to. And then I went to Iceland because I could and I wanted to. Right? And then I was like, hey, then let's go over to Germany and let's go over to Zurich and let's go to Italy again and let's do whatever the fuck we want because we can. And I proved to myself that I could, sadly, in that kind of story, but I think it is that we need those experiences to show us how resilient we are and that we're so much stronger than we think we are because of, the stories and how people tell us what we should and should not do according to what's expected in like good in society. But also another lesson in this is to hold people accountable to the promises that they make to you. And to also understand that, like, we can blame this guy, right? We can hate him. I don't hate him.
Right.
He's also a person going through his own journey of evolution. He's also a human. Don't take it personally. We're all just trying to survive and we're on this course of life. Like, that's why we're here, to have this dance with life and figure it out as we go. And had I not been, quote, abandoned, I would have never realized my own strength and potential. I would have never evolved to the next layer, a level of who I am as a woman and a traveler. And I actually have this guy, my soulmate, who came with a karmic lesson to thank.
Yeah. And that's a really, that's the mature, healed way to view it all. And
Yes.
so like you always know, like based on, you're like, and that's how, once you start saying you don't blame them or you don't hate them, then you're like, okay, you've passed the test.
Yeah. I mean,
right. Because you see
who
the
knows
value.
how I triggered him, right?
Right.
That's what soulmates do.
Yeah. And you see the value in the time and the lessons and the experience. And that's invaluable, really.
Yeah, it really goes back to traveling is not those destinations. It's those people, the connections, and the experience of the lesson that comes out of it.
Yes. And so this lesson, this experience, this person, it was kind of like a few year story arc, right?
Oh yeah, it was like a 3-year saga.
It was a 3-year saga. Did you feel like a new lightness when you left South America? You stopped home and then you went back to Europe. Did you have like a new perspective, or did travel feel new to you at some point in this journey based on having almost kind of closed a chapter?
It felt good to close that chapter. I did feel a sense of loss, I will say, because I was emotionally invested in this man for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, to my quote own fault, but when you have that deep, like, at a soul level connection with someone, It's like you're telepathic no matter where you are in the world to each other. But we could finally close that door because of what happened. I did have a new sense of zest for life, but it also made me not really want to bother dating anybody.
Okay.
It kind of made me very rebellious, and it made me just say, I don't need a man to do shit.
That's
I
right.
don't even care to go out on a date. You're just gonna get in my way.
Yep. That's a train I've been on.
Yeah.
No dates.
I mean, yeah. Because what happens is you become so powerful almost. People can feel this confidence and power that you exude. And it's a little scary.
Yes.
You know, it takes the right guy to say, I'm not scared of this empowered woman who has been traveling solo for 5 years, who went against all odds and built a business or multiple, who has way more life experience than I've ever endured, and still stay in the conversation with you.
Yeah.
And I will say, after this, and I suggest this to everyone, all listeners, make the decision that you only want to attract and meet soulmate or karmic, however you want to word it, relationships. And you will.
Interesting.
And so I will also say that I wasn't meeting as many men in that way. Women, definitely. We also have women soulmates, and it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I wasn't attracting that kind of man anymore. Good. I don't want to. I don't want to. If you're not going to help me evolve or support, empower, and challenge me in some way, then I'm going to just keep on going and, living my life as I do. Now, that's not to say that I haven't had like a nice little makeout session with, a waiter in Italy. Because I mean, I'm not stupid.
Tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Yeah. But that's like that's flirting with life, right? That's just not being so serious and just having fun and being really spontaneous and, again, curious. But because I had decided, hey, I'm going to figure out what I really want to do with my life, and was traveling per astrocartography, right? So I went to live on my moon, I went to live on my North Node, on my sun, on my Jupiter, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I wanted to just kind of really be selfish with my time, because once I really realized how much privilege I do have, I'm like, well, I'm going to go all in on this and be so completely selfish, because one day there is going to be a partner and I'm going to be with him for the next 60 years?
Yeah.
And so I took 6 months to do that. I know not everyone can take 6 months of not taking on new clients. But I highly recommend it. I highly recommend saying, I'm going to give myself 6 months to figure out what I want to do and be completely selfish with my time.
Would you consider that time frame your kind of eat, pray, love moment in a way? Removing the work aspect of it?
I think you could say that was an eat, pray, love moment. I mean, I did gain the 20 pounds.
There you go.
Yeah, if anyone has not been to Italy, you go to Italy to eat.
Oh, God, I love Italy.
Cannolis every morning,
Yum.
pasta, pizza, vino. I mean, what are you going to do?
And it hits different. Like, it hits so different there. Like, it doesn't put me on the toilet all day. Like, you can
it's
eat
from farm to table.
Yeah, it's not poisonous wheat. My God, it's glorious. Yeah. I wish that experience for everybody in their lifetimes, to just go to Italy and eat. So does that bring us up to present day?
So I went to Ireland, and then to Iceland, and then to Germany, Switzerland, Italy. And then I flew back to America to go to a friend's bachelorette, up to Sedona. Highly recommend Sedona. It's a very expensive place, but you can get lots of fun readings like Soul Spark Retrieval, and you want to, kind of dig into more of the depths of why you came here.
Right.
And so I did a little bit of that. And then I probably honestly went home and did the whole reset suitcase scenario thing. And then
Okay.
I went to Cape Town, and I was in Cape Town from Christmas Day until May 12th, until I came back to where I am now.
Okay.
So Cape Town, as we were talking about this 3-year saga, what I realized in Cape Town is that I had actually been on a 5-year relationship healing journey.
Okay.
So if you remember in the beginning, I started my nomadic journey with a Saturn return where I had gotten laid off. My boyfriend and I broke up, who, by the way, that boyfriend was also a soulmate relationship as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a karmic one, okay? And then, yeah, the apartment thing, whatever. So when me and him, we went to New Zealand, I originally wanted to go to Cape Town, but he had already gone. So finally, I'm like, yes, I'm going to Cape Town. It's going to be for my 35th birthday. I'm going to have a huge party. I'm going to do this big, fancy, crazy launch. Cape Town is the definition for me of my story of turmoil, fear of failure with ego stardom and naive, like, idiocy, basically, an identity crisis. So
That's a lot.
yeah. Also, beautiful place. Everybody go to Cape Town. It's amazing. But everybody's going to have a different journey and experience in every country. So that's also like a big asterisk I always put when people are researching where to go. Everyone has a different experience everywhere. It really depends on what's going on in their life.
Yes, totally. And we've had a couple of conversations with astrology bestie, KJ Atlas. So we have talked a little bit about locational astrology and, using the birth chart and looking at not only locations, but the timing of those locations as well. So I appreciate you calling that out because it's true. Like everyone's experience is going to be totally different. And so you might as well just go to the place and try it out
Totally.
and see what happens, right? But tell me more about Cape Town and your year 5 experience.
So Cape Town is a place where at first you don't see any poverty, and then all of a sudden that's all you see. I don't know if it was because of me at that time, but I will say with astrocartography, I set very, very high expectations for myself in this place. I knew I was on a Venus MC line, which is predestined for artists, folks, and I knew I was going to be a workaholic. So I was like, great, bring it on. I love to work. Let's do it. And I kind of felt like this kind of hero in a way. I was like, all right, I left this guy. I traveled for 5 years. I'm finally going to the destination that I had always wanted to go. I've always wanted to go to Cape Town. He's not coming with me. I'm doing it by myself. Woman, hear me roar. I'm, turning the next age. I'm going to have this huge, big, successful launch. And none of that went according to plan.
Oh,
Like, none of it. So this is where I say like ego stardom and just really naive. But I basically told myself, I invested in a program and said, great, I'm going to just do exactly what she says and I will make massive amounts of money.
yes, that's what's promised, of course.
Yeah. No, you idiot. No. And so, but at the same time, after I had just gone through this journey of, well, what do you really want to do and become? Because I'm definitely a person, multi-passionate, loads of ideas, loads of avenues I can take. And it came to a point where I had to decide who I am going to be and claim it. And this is where identity comes into play. And it was in this, and it was actually doing the work of this program because, of course, they make you answer hard questions and really just when it comes down to, okay, well, what is the result that I provide, right?
Yes.
Well, what is it, man? What are you providing these people? What's the result? And I remember this is when I came back into more of the creative industry. And I had this fight with myself about calling myself a creative director because in society, I never technically, quote unquote, earned that title.
Interesting.
Right. And with that, being a digital nomad and having all of this information about travel, meeting and helping you, it's,
Yes.
who are you? You have this identity of this digital nomad person. You're a business coach. Okay, sure, whatever. Yeah. I know I say that like, yeah, like we all are. I mean,
But you are.
But I am. But I am more of a creative director. I am more the ideas person and helping you plant that seed and build that into a brand, into a business, into an offer. It kind of starts with that. And when I was back in the corporate world, I was very successful in the ideas and the designs and the things that came about. But I was a graphic designer. I was a senior designer. I was a UX designer. I was an art director. I was any other word but a creative director, even though I was doing creative director's work and, running and leading and managing teams. And so that was really, really, really difficult because through doing this work, I basically came to this realization, and also through market research. I was like, Helen, you need to go on Instagram. And I dared myself to get inspired or be challenged by one person in the online space back in the creative field that I am. I mean, I have 17 years experience of this, but I think what happens when we leave the corporate to the nomadic world, we're rebelling against that, right? So we don't want to actually do what we did.
Right.
Even though it's natural to us. If I think about what I was doing when I was 5, I was coloring, I was painting. I am an artist. But all of a sudden, it kind of gets positioned in this really toxic and traumatic way that we rebel against it and we try to pick up anything else that we'd rather do. Right? Like coaching people in business, teaching people how to travel, which I do love to do, and I can do that, etc. But when I went out into the online space and was very disappointed with what I found, because a lot of people are self-taught, and I'm not saying that's bad, I said, oh my God, I have to own this. I have to come out. It was like coming out of the closet and owning it and fearing what people back home could say or think about this. And it's like, who cares? Nobody is watching you. Nobody's watching you. And you're in, yeah, nobody's watching you. And by the time that I finally made this decision to call myself a creative director and to say I'm going back into the creative industry and to really take ownership of this, my program started to take a turn as to what I was building, and the fear started to come in. And so the reason why the launch or the launch wasn't successful, one is because of outliers like load shedding, which is power outages like 10 hours a day that's going on in Cape Town. Sure, whatever. But I was never 100% committed to my own program.
That'll do it.
I was maybe 99%, 97%, 95%. But if you're not 100% committed to something, you're 0% committed. And so it was really hard for me to see the value and worth of my own program, which, by the way, I've run and done like for 5 years. It works. There's been success. But because there was this nuanced layer of this new identity and this stage that I basically had to walk multiple steps on to being, and just the bigness. Stop playing so small. Where's your big business energy?
Yes, absolutely.
So year 5 was another, just like whichever year of the relationship healing, of ego falling, right? But this ego fall is about success and fame and money. And saying, well, if I just go live on IG and do exactly what this woman tells me to do. And that was kind of strange. Like, she basically just promised, hey, you're just going to do these IG lives. You are going to do it like twice a week for the next 5 weeks. And when you close the door, everybody's just going to come in. Oh my God.
Not so
Horrifying.
much? Not so much?
I never even finished the launch. I never did it.
Yeah.
I started it.
And I think a lot of us can relate to launches are those big moments of like ego, right?
Oh
Like the
yeah.
failed launch. If you haven't had a failed launch, like you haven't started a business yet. Like I really believe,
It's all about failing. And
yeah.
so this was the thing too about specifically with Cape Town and how I started with, at first you don't notice the poverty and that's all you see.
Mhm.
Every single day I was shown what it looks like to fail.
Mm.
If you don't succeed in this launch, you will have no money to survive. My basic survival needs were threatened because every day for at least 2 hours a day, the power goes out. You experience what it's like to have those things taken away from you. And what also happens with that is you're constantly trying to live in the future. You're constantly planning. When is the power going to go out? Is the food going to go bad? Do I need to make lunch or dinner right now? What do I need to get out on Instagram? What do I need to email? So you're working with a 7-hour time difference. You're working with load shedding and the power outages that go out. You're seeing poverty every single day. And you are going through an identity crisis and the expectations that you put on yourself to succeed there. Saying, it's my 5th year. I'm finally going to this dream country. I'm going to have this crazy 35th birthday, which, by the way, I was this fast moving train that I did not want to, I had to finally get on and say, oh, you're turning 35. You might as well call a restaurant and make dinner reservations so your 2 friends that you know here can join you,
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, before I'm picturing like, I'm going to rent this beautiful Airbnb villa and I'm going to make so many friends and they're all going to come.
We do put such large, like you said, expectations, and in some ways it's a good thing, but when they're too big, when they're unachievable, you're almost setting yourself up for, I mean, in a way you kind of created
Disappointment.
that experience for yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were creating an environment where you could be disappointed, and when you could fall back into maybe a bit of a fear state, and when you could feel scarcity in some ways and lack, to ultimately realize that maybe you were holding on to some things below the surface, right? That weren't serving you, that were keeping you from not going in 100% on what you're doing. And man, I mean that's as real as it gets, right? Like that is real life. This is what we're doing here on this rock.
And the thing is too with launches, we see so many entrepreneurs do this and we think that we have to make it as big as they do. Meanwhile, why are you comparing yourself to Amy Porterfield? let's just put a throwback one that everybody knows,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when we started this beta,
Yeah.
I am great at beta testing. You know why? Because I don't put any pressure on it. And that was the biggest thing that I came to the realization of is I need to be and stay as present as humanly possible in my business and life. And business needs to be fun, needs to be treated with pure curiosity, exciting, like, oh, I get to work on my business today. This is so great, right?
Yes.
But when you're going through a launch, so much fear comes in that your mind tells you you're not doing enough, do more. So you just keep creating more content and more content and more content and more content. And what that actually does is it puts you so much in your masculine and your audience or prospects and potentials and their feminine, right? That you're not even allowing them to take action because you just keep shoving more shit in their face, And then it makes you look like you're not confident in your own program, which guess what? I don't think I was, even though I had done it a million times. But when it comes to designing your own sales page, writing all the copy, seeing how every other entrepreneur built their program, well, should it be 6 months? Should the calls be every week? Well, what should the workbook look like? Well, what's the start date? When am I going to close the door? When am I going to fly home? It's like, oh my God, man.
And
It's a
then
lot.
nothing happens, right? Like you can't do anything from that place of overwhelm.
No, it's when this will happen to all of you listening, by the way. When this stuff, what happens, your mind takes the driver's seat.
Mm.
And we don't notice when it happens. You know, if we picture a car and if you were to switch seats with the passenger, there's this whole little like awkward situation where, hold on, am I going up? Are you going back? And like, who's putting their feet over when? And should I go around the car? This happens, we don't know. But all of a sudden, ego, the mind is driving high speed on the highway, baby. And your body is just kind of like, all right, just kind of like here for the ride. Your soul, though, was like, hey, why did you drop me off? How come you just left me? You know, and that's actually what it feels like. And we don't know. We have no idea that it's going on. And so if you ever come to this situation, it's out of your realm. You can't help yourself. I always suggest seeking out a Reiki healer.
Mm.
Because at that time, what had happened to me, she told me it was crazy. She's like, first of all, your right leg is 2 inches, or like left leg is 2 inches shorter, something like this. I was so off balance. My body was 2 inches taller on the wrong side. I was so much into my masculine. I had 3 unaligned chakras. I had picked up someone else's bad energy and it was attached to my hip for 2 months. Someone else's bad energy. I remember having such inner critic like the most horrid thoughts that I thought to myself, this is after the healing. Because I remember what happens is your thoughts are so horrible. You start to blame yourself for those thoughts and say, how did you let yourself get like this? What happened to the cute, little, bubbly, excited, joyful person that you were? You let her die. Where did she go? So it gets like piled and piled and piled on. And I remember being in this Reiki session and whatever the work that she did, I saw my thoughts. It was so bad where I would say, well, I kind of want to ask to put like a towel or something over my eyes so I can like really kind of not see anything, but I'm kind of afraid to ask her because like, what is she going to think of me? Like, this is her work. Like, let her. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's how bad it was. And so I remember in the session watching my thoughts completely transform into the positive. And I could not. And then she told me like the whole thing after. She told me I had my brain waves were all a mess. Like I was just out of it. I was out of it. And she basically saved my life in that way. And it was $56 US to get a Reiki session, you know, and you can do it over the phone, but sometimes it's just out of I'm looking for a specific word. It's not coming. Our wheelhouse. It's just we can't help ourselves. We need someone else to come in. And that can be a Reiki healer, that could be a psychic medium, that could be an Akashic reader, that can be anything that can help you take a step deeper into your aura, what's going on, your journey, and remove stuff that you've been holding on to or blocks or bad energy and realign and recenter yourself.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of calling in the people that I need to help me because it's true. Like we can go really far on our own, but at some point we need help. At some point we need help. And, you know, maybe it doesn't have to get super extreme or maybe it does, you know, depending on who you are and how often you reach out for help. But I'm a huge believer in any healing modalities, any sort of external information coming from a well-intended source that can just like help you get back to who the fuck you are. It sounds like, you know, maybe for a minute you lost sight of who you were, and it does happen to all of us for different reasons at different times, and it can be really scary, and depending on how far you let it snowball, right? Like it can be really hard to bounce back. And so I love that, you know, that reminder of like sometimes you do need to expand your toolbox beyond like your immediate set of tools. Like sometimes the situation calls for something stronger.
Yeah.
And for you in that moment, it was the Reiki healing session. And like, thank God for that person.
And what you said too, when you lose sense of who you are, sometimes it's not even that. It is. But in this instance, it was, what is this program for?
Mm,
Who are you helping, but why? Right? It turned into this monetary thing, this fame thing, this success thing. Who am I if I don't succeed of this launch?
mm,
Versus, oh my God, if I could just change one person's life, how happy I would be, right?
yeah.
And it happens a lot to people, to all of us.
Yeah.
We have to constantly be reminded, what are we doing this for? It's not for the money. If it's for the money, go get yourself a temp job, collect the checks, and when you decide you're done, then come back out and you'll say, okay, right?
Yeah.
It's like, who are you doing this for? Are you doing it to have a fancy sales page? Are you doing it so you can have a launch debrief later and say, I made, $75,000 and beat my full-time salary in these couple months and hear me roar and this and that? Or is it actually for the people? Is it to uplift and change other people's lives in the way that you came here to do, right? And we lose it every once in a while. I
Yeah.
will say too, I had looked for a Reiki healer before then, and I would keep calling these couple places and I never got it, right? And I said, wow, it's interesting. It must not be time. It's not time for me. The universe is like, no. So I did have an Akashic reading after this. If anybody needs any readings from, let me know. I got a whole blue book or a black book of it. But because of this, I was so down on myself being like, oh my God, I must have just set my destiny off track for 4 months, for 6 months. Like nothing changed, nothing moved. I didn't do anything. Like I felt like such a failure to my own highest self. I felt like a failure to my spirit guides. I was ashamed from my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, my spirit guides are looking down at me like, really? You couldn't handle Cape Town? Which is insane, right? And what was interesting is she said it was a remembrance of your soul. And it was something you had to go through again in this lifetime of the ego falling. And so you can also call that, a karmic debt or a karmic lesson. The other one, there was a person involved with it. This one was just with me. This was looking in my own mirror back. And it's a good reminder that we are human and we are here to experience life. And sometimes shit is really going to suck and you will fall to your knees and you will cry out of desperation. And it's just to put you into this mode of surrender and the next day say, I survived.
Mm.
The worst possible thing that I thought was going to happen happened. And now I'm on the other side of it and I survived it. And now I can actually move forward. But was that a Cape Town thing? I think that was a thing that would, no matter where I was going to be or what I was going to do, what the program is, who the coach I could have invested in, it was part of my destiny to go through this rising and falling of ego and coming out on the other side.
That's amazing. Where do you feel like you're at now? And what are you looking forward to having gone through all of these experiences that have really helped redefine who you are, what you're doing here, and what you want to help other people do here?
So good. All right, so I'm going to approach this in the different categories, right? Since we went through many categories of
Yeah.
our perfect pie chart of being human. So when it comes to business and when I came home, right? I came home for 6 months. I was exhausted, let's say, and I really just wanted to have some stability. I wanted to kind of be taken care of, by my parents in a way. And again, going to be selfish with that and say, I have this privilege and this opportunity to go home and live with my parents and be taken care of and get myself sorted out. And what I did is I just actually made all these fun, different offers in my business. Did not care if it would, succeed or fail, and made myself really accessible to work with and had so much fun doing that. I'm like, let's just start from scratch. Let's pretend you're meeting the online world for the very first time. How can you be accessible to people and how can you just help them? So I offered 90-minute strategy calls for whatever that you would want to work with me with. And then I could really start to understand what people are coming to me for. Again, I could be reminded of who am I and what do people look at me and how do they interpret me? I did that with branding. I was like, do you want to go back into doing more branding? Do you want to, let's really test and try all these things out and let's build it all out. And I did hire an operations person to really help me restructure the business and how I really want to work and maybe not be so heavily reliant on public launches and have some of that, but also have, people just booking in your calendar.
Yes.
And just take a little bit of that pressure off.
Yeah.
But, I went to art school. I didn't go to business school. There's so much emotion involved owning a business if you don't have any business knowledge, because your mind doesn't have any of that logic of here are 5 ways to structure your business that are, optimal. You're kind of just totally making it up as you go. So that was a great thing that I did, was honestly really reset. I took that 6 months of trying to find out what the hell I want to do. Then I went through this whole ego identity journey of trying to push that out into the world to have the humbling experience of just coming home and completely starting from scratch. So now, yes, I will have 2 programs that are going to be coming out in 2024. And the way that I'm approaching it is going to be so different from this previous launch. And I'm going to treat it just like I would if I were beta launching something and saying, hey, does anybody want to come and learn this awesome thing that I'm going to teach? Because I have to. Like, it makes me so happy to teach this and to help you that I don't care if one person signs up, I'm going to be there for you, babe, And coming back into myself and really making sure that my soul is always on the ride is paying really close attention as to how I feel towards things, right? So how do I feel towards doing this program or launch? How do I feel towards making a website for somebody? How do I feel towards, I don't know, I could name like 10,000 things, right? Coming back to how does it make you feel? Because if it makes you feel good, that's the correct pathway to keep walking down on. And having absolutely no pressure in it and saying, hey, maybe 5 people sign up for this and I teach it and I learn from it and I get the testimonials in and I get that feedback and I revamp it. And guess what? And then I launch it again. And I do it all over again, and then rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat, and not being this whole like big, gigantic end of the year recital, which is how I was going about it. And almost taking the way that I did these little pop-up offers throughout the summer while I was restructuring my business to make sure I was building my own brand awareness, getting myself out in front of clients, building that roster, treating it just like that, like fun.
Yes.
Like actual fun.
Yeah.
And so travel-wise, this winter, I will be going back to South America.
Okay.
And I will be going to Buenos Aires. And I am bringing somebody with me this time. Gasp.
Who are you bringing?
So, since we talked a lot about soulmates and karmic relationships and debt and lessons in this episode, I am happy to say that I am bringing a soulmate along with me, a new one.
A romantic
Oh my
soulmate?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Helen, this could not be more full circle if you fucking tried.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to say to you is in this 5-year journey of relationship healing from that ex to Cape Town was a mini 3-year saga. And in that mini 3-year saga was other mini karmic connections and lessons that came as well. So I'm excited. It's fucking crazy. I mean, we've known each other for 3 weeks.
Okay.
And we're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Like, we feel home with each other, safe with each other, excited, challenged, and we'll see how it goes. But I think it's going to be a really beautiful experience.
Wow. Okay. I'm very excited for this. This is new news.
I know. I actually thought about it. I'm like, should I release this information, this breaking news?
Yes.
Like, is he going to listen to this?
He
I
better.
I don't even know how to break it on Instagram. Like, what do I even do? I'm
Well,
like, hi. So by the way, a Libra eclipse portal happened and
you could do, what are the kids doing these days?
I don't
Private, but
know.
not secret.
Yeah.
Like you only
Is
show
that?
half of his face.
Yeah. Or like a close friends thing, or like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know.
Or you could just hard launch, jump scare, either way.
Yeah.
Either way is perfect.
I'll just like break the internet with like a post being like, by the way.
Okay, so when do you leave?
We're going to first meet and do a cute little New Year's together with a little Amex resort hotel kind of thing. And then we'll be in Buenos Aires by like January 3rd.
Wow.
We're going to really start the new year out together. And do Patagonia and Mendoza and Florianopolis. And the sky's the limit.
Stunning.
It's crazy, like really reflecting on this. I broke out of the chains to go on this huge journey by myself and find myself in that journey and understand that I'm capable of anything, don't need a man for anything, and also heal that relationship and say, but you know what? You guys would still be nice to have around, right? Like I choose to.
Yes. You don't need, right?
Don't need.
Yeah.
And we can go on this experience together. And I'm sure there'll be ups and downs. I'm sure there'll be triggers. And again, that's what soulmates do. It's a mirror as to what shit is still lingering that you have not healed yet. And it's the way to evolve too.
Well, this has been an incredible conversation. I feel like you've really painted the picture for beyond travel, like what is life like around the world? And it's really inspiring, right? Because nothing stops if you choose this lifestyle. Nothing stops. You're not going to miss out on X or Y, or you're not going to like stop dating. You're not going to stop making friends. You're going to be doing all the things. Even if someone doesn't want to live this way, I think you've given us an idea of how to be just better travelers too, in terms of, really valuing the people, even if they're like fleeting moments, fleeting connections, just approaching the world with an open mind and an open heart. And I look forward to seeing your next chapter and seeing you really come back to share and build your business from like having fun. I'm so excited to follow along your journey. As a final question, I want to know if there's anything else you want to share today with listeners that you feel like needs to be left on the table, and also where people can start to connect with you if they want more Helen in their lives.
A lot of people will start traveling to leave something behind, right? To leave a relationship, to leave a broken heart, to leave their identity, their job, all of this stuff. But it's like you're actually going to heal all those things. And It's expecting the unexpected. It's expecting to fail, expect to fall out of balance, but also to expect to fall in love and expect to break and hit rock bottom and then be liberated and rise and grow and really enjoy life and live life to the fullest, because there's no way that I could ever go through the amounts of experience and trial and triumph and getting to know myself and who I am and what I came here to do had I just stayed at home. If anyone listening feels any like soul urge, is what I would call it, a soul urge desire to just do something, then just do it. Because it's never going to go away until you do.
Truly.
Okay, where to find me on socials? Well, my Instagram is super simple and it's just my name, thankfully, Helen Simkins. I have a free community that you can join because I like to be the sense of stability for you. And so every month we have live goal setting calls the first Tuesday, because trust me, I know how hard it is to run a business while traveling. And wherever you are in the world at any time, whether you've been on your tasks or not, you can always attend a call. You can always watch the replay and know that you have the support from other female nomadic entrepreneurs that are on the same journey that you are.
Amazing. We will link to all the good things in the show notes. Helen's Instagram, I highly recommend. Very inspirational, very gorgeous. She takes the best photos and also shares really valuable information. So I love that. And who doesn't love some goal setting accountability too? You can find all of that and more in the show notes. Helen, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I always love talking with you, and I'm excited to have one of these on record and to be able to share it with the More Pod fam, because you are truly inspiring and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yay! We'll have to do it again.
Yes.
Another travel topic, another day, right?
There's so many. Traveling with a soulmate. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. To be continued. To be continued. Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.